Alrighty, guys, welcome one and all. Thanks for joining me. This is your host, ID Jester. We're going to be looking at, talking about, and discussing Panzer Grenadier by Avalanche Press. This is obviously a World War II tactical combat system. It is designed and published by Avalanche Press. And so we're going to talk a little bit about Avalanche Press and history, and a little bit we'll get into some of the introductions to the system. And kind of what I want to do in this is kind of introduce people that are unfamiliar with this game, and talk to them about why they, why you might want to look at this if you are a World War II or a tactical guy or anything like that. It's not as well known as a lot of the other tactical systems out there when you compare it to, say, ASL or ATS or lock and load system. Most people have heard of that tactical system, but unfortunately, Panzer Grenadier has not given its fair due. And there's some reasons for that, and that's why I wanted to kind of talk about Avalanche Press. You can see here this map, okay? So they've been publishing this game since 1998, 99, so it's been a long time. And actually, they've just released the 4th edition rules for the system. So you can actually, let's flip you over to the desktop here. How do I get to my desktop? We can just do that. There we go. So you can actually go to avalanchepress.com. You can come over to the left-hand side here under Panzer Grenadier, and then you can just click on the rules and the charts. And there's your 4th rule edition rules and charts. And then you can order your Panzer Grenadier game right here. All right. Or you can also download a free playset. So you just come here, download the free playset that you can use to print out your own counters and maps and stuff to give the game a try without having to purchase anything. I would recommend you just buy one of the boxes. It's a lot easier and cheaper. They have all kinds of different, as you can see here, plenty of different box games. There are books, there are extras, etc., etc. Some of them are very big and complex games, but there's also some smaller introductory ones. I think Invasion 44 is their newest kind of introductory one. Invasion 44, $44.99, kind of comes with a learn as you go type game, where you start the first scenario and it teaches you a few of the rules, and then you go on to the next scenario and it teaches you a few more. So it's kind of a great learning experience. Hey Viper Dave, how you doing? Never played this system. Nice to see you back in wargaming. Guess you plan on living well into your hundreds, so without the books you bought. That's true. I do. I plan on living forever, man. Thanks for coming by. Hey, Al, how you doing there? Al, Red Sox fan. So yeah, you can pick up. They range in variety from like $40 all the way up to $99.99. So, depending on what theater you're interested in, they have, as we looked at, a bunch of difference. Unfortunately, there's some reasons behind. I don't think Panzer Grenadier gets as much love as a lot of the other systems out there, and it's basically because this is all just my impression, right? This is just me talking about things, and I'm going to click through a few of these so you can, as I talk, you can see, you can read and see the counters and the maps and everything. So Panzer Grenadier, actually, this is this one here. Oops, if I take this off for a second. This is actually the East Front scenario book, and I also have, if you watch my unboxing video, I have Africa Corps, right? And I also have Guadalcanal as well. So I've got quite a few of the different games. I actually had about 20 of them before I moved down to Florida and sold them all before I moved down there as Guadalcanal. But you notice if we actually go back to the Panzer Grenadier system, you will notice there is no Guadalcanal on here. There is no East Front game. There is no Panzer. What was the other one called? I forget. Africa Corps. They're not on here anymore. All right, so there's kind of a what I'm calling first wave of Panzer Grenadier games, and that's where you get Guadalcanal, you get Africa Corps, East Front, what's it called, Normandy. There's about 8 or 10 of them that were released in kind of this format, and they didn't help themselves. Avalanche Press really didn't help themselves sell the game because, as you can see by this map, it's not the greatest thing to look at. The counters are absolutely beautiful now. If I was to show you guys a couple of the counters, you can see here, the counters are really quality coloring, and come on. I did this earlier and you worked just fine. Now what's the deal? Come on. Come on. It's going to be a pain in the butt today, isn't it? Come on, there. Almost. Come on. Almost. There we go. All right, so let's see if I can zoom in a little bit closer. There we go. So you can see the quality and the counters are really nice, pretty thick counters. But you can see the map is not great. The charts and stuff that come in the game are just, kind of generic looking. Let me show you the charts of the games here and stuff. It's just on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of thin. It's not paper, but it's not thick cardstock. It's kind of like in between that, and it's not in color, right? And it's, you get your terrain effect charts not in color and stuff. So when they released these games, like I said, back in 1998 they started the Panzer Grenadier system. Tactical World War II. If you know anything about my channel, I started my channel doing Tactical World War II gaming on my channel, mostly ASL, some lock and load system, a few other ones out there, but I never did Panzer Grenadier for whatever reason. It's one of those games that, it's a little bit different in the way they do things, and so some people really, really love it. Some people don't. I enjoy all tactical games. It doesn't matter. I love all of them, and it's good to have variety of different games out there, which is super good. But as I said, so they released East Front, they released Africa Corps, they released Normandy, they were releasing all these different Panzer Grenadier games, but they weren't helping themselves sell the game because, as you can see here, the maps, not really, the counters are nice, it's functional, it does what it's supposed to do. There's 8 maps that come in, this series here in this game system. So you got, another map that's kind of, it's got a couple force hex, a couple little town hex, field hex, and a couple roads on it, and then you can kind of mix and match and line them up however you need for the scenario. And there's 8 of them, and they're okay. And like I said, the little terrain effect charts, they do what they need. But they're not color, they're not really thick and sterny, they're kind of just generic, and so people, they spent a good deal of money on the games. Like I said, we're talking anywhere from $40 to $60 to $80 to $100 per game, and a lot of people, that were trying to get into the system and play Panzer Grenadier, really didn't feel like they were getting their full money's worth, I guess is the best way to put it. Quality versus what they're paying for. Even though it's a great system, it's like, well, I don't like playing on these maps, and it just doesn't really want to make me play the game, right? And so to Avalanche, Press's full credit, though, they decided that, okay, we got a good system here. We got a good company here. We just need to do something to make people want to play our games. So they started putting a lot more effort into better quality components. As you can see here, I wish I could zoom in on this map and show you what this map, how the difference in this map looks like. In fact, if we actually go and type in Panzer Grenadier, and we go to images here, and we go to Avalanche Press here, right? So here's some of the older games, Battle of the Bolts, right? You can just tell by the front covers of these games. They're okay. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just like, if you see it, it's like, oh, okay, that's nothing great. Here's Africa Corps here, another Africa Corps. Here's their original Panzer Grenadier game, which is kind of just generic, a hand-drawn dude. Here's another one, an older, I would say, what I'm going to call first edition Panzer Grenadier game, Road to Berlin. Here's Africa Corps again. Here's Guadalcanal. You can tell. But then you look at what they've done recently and compare that, right? So here's Fall of France, 1940. Here's their front cover. It's got a historic picture of, German units driving down the streets of Paris. Much more interesting than a hand-drawn picture of, somebody standing there not even doing anything, right? So you can see definitely a lot more effort going into the quality of the game. Let's see the quality of the maps. So here's their newer maps, and when you compare that to, if I just take it off for a second, you got this plain generic kind of boring map, right? And then you compare it to something like this. It's like night and day, right? Night and day. Here's another one. Hopefully it'll load up here. There we go. Look at that. Look how nice that looks. So much better. You get the shadow of the trees in there. You get, the edge of the crater is all shadowy, and you can tell that they started putting a lot more better quality out there. Much better quality for their maps. Their counters have always been good quality counters. There was one game in the series that had crappy counters. It was the Normandy game. I can't remember the name of it. It was called. Here's the East Front, the one that I'm actually playing, or got set up here for you. It's just kind of a generic box in version 1 of Panzer Grenadier. And let's see, what was the name of that? See if I can find it here. Here it is, right here. Beyond Normandy. That's the name of it. So Beyond Normandy, the reason this game was subpar was the counters were thinner, a lot thinner than like normal counters, and people were not very happy with that. Having thin counters makes it a little bit easier on the map, but you can see here another quality design. Here's some more maps here. Here's a nice big one that we can see. So they definitely put better quality into their you can see here, here's a picture of someone playing an older version, and you can see just the difference is just, it's night and day. When you don't want to play the game because it doesn't look good, it just kind of takes away the purpose of having the game. So anyways, so now that I'm calling it, and I'm calling it as what I'm calling the Avalanche Press Panzer Grenadier second wave of games. And like I said, if you click on these now, you can see beautiful maps. Like I said, they've always had good counters and stuff, but much better quality for what you're getting, and the same price. If we look at, say, Invasion 44, here's an Invasion 44. It's got a nice painting on the front, front cover. This is kind of an introductory game into the system. You will learn some of the rules as you play the first few scenarios, then some more rules as you play later on and such. So they didn't have this before, right? And then another thing was, if we look at the actual rule book, yuck. So this is the second edition rule book, right? And this is what? This is 17 pages. 17 pages of rules on it. Very generic, black and white, not very many examples, very few drawings, nothing to help you figure out how to play the game. No detailed explanations and explanations on the rules and such. Well, then they finally decided to come out with the third edition rules. This is 16 pages, so they didn't increase it at all in size, right? And you can see once again, black and white, kind of just few examples, just a lot of text, a little bit better layout where they separate things by different paragraphs, which makes it a little easier, but still not a great, a lot of questions afterwards. Can my leaders do this? Can my units do that? And look through the rule book trying to figure it all out, and you can't do it. You just can't. The second and third edition rules, people could argue over how to play the game because one person could read the rule one way and another person could read the rule a different way, and then you never end up finding any explanation or how it should actually be played in the rules. Well, as I've been talking about, and yes, this is kind of a long-winded explanation, they have now come up with the fourth edition rules, which are right here. Again, you can download these for free. These are now 36 pages long. So much more detailed with better examples, right? Actual like a screenshot and then example, right? This is what we mean by this rule. Look at this example. This is what we mean by it. There is examples everywhere in this book. Here is another example right here. Nice explanation. This is what we mean by this rule. Didn't have that in the previous editions. I know here is another screenshot capture where they're going to talk about, okay, in the illustration, another example to kind of absolutely show you what they mean and talk about it in the rules and what they're talking about, which is what they should have done way back in the second edition, but they never did. So they certainly have definitely upgraded their desire to make it user friendly, and they've updated their just the work in putting out a product is much better quality, better items, better everything you get. You get more better quality items than you used to get. And so hopefully that will bring more people back in. Here is a line of sight example here, right? And they have all these A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, and then it says, can Unit A spot Unit B, right? So can A spot Unit B? Yes. Are they in line of sight? Yes. Are they spotted? Yes. And then they give you a detailed reason why those two are. Can A, which is up here, can this unit up here, see C? No, no line of sight. Not spotted. Why? Because it's blocked by the woods. Great. I mean, putting this stuff in a rule book adds a few pages, but it helps your players go, oh, now I understand what I'm supposed to. Oh, okay. That's what the rule means. Giving examples. Sure, it's going to add extra pages to the rule book, but who flipping cares? It's better to have your people understand the rules. Here's another, as we flip back through, the second edition and the third edition, all you just saw was a block of text. There was no examples. There was no, illustrations. It was all just read our rules and follow along. And so the reason I've talked all this time about Avalanche Press, why the system isn't as well known as it was, as some of the others out there. I've always thought it was a good system, but it's hard to get other people to play it because the maps are boring, the rules aren't clear and concise. It's not like I was in a big gaming group in Ohio before I moved down here, and there was people in the gaming group that would play war games. Not many of them, but some of them. But they would play ASL, or they would play Combat Commander, or other tactical systems. They wouldn't play this because of all of those reasons. So I see a definite influx from Avalanche Press trying to make things much better for their users. Here's their new Normandy map because they're coming out with the new Invasion 44, which is going to be American paratroopers in the German armies in 44, right? You can tell the difference between this map and the old maps. They're just so much better. Better quality, better coloring, better everything. So I definitely see that they've gone steps. They're taking steps to right the wrongs. I'm not going to say the wrongs because as a growing company, as one of the guys out there releasing games, you don't know until you do it if you can do anything better. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the first time you cook, the new rule set is awesome, Jeremy. Thanks for joining me, buddy. I appreciate it. Hey, we got another Red Sox fan there. Jeremy's a Red Sox fan. So I'm really hoping that more people, and that's why I'm going to be doing this series, is if you go online and you type in ASL, you're going to see a bunch of videos, right? Probably most of them are from me, though. Okay, I'm not going to take full credit, but yeah, most of them are from me. All right. But if you type in Panzer Grenadier, Avalanche Press, you're going to have like 2 videos out there. There's nothing out there to explain to people how to play this game, what to do with it, examples of play, examples of rules, or anything to kind of help introduce people and say, oh, this looks pretty good. I might want to try this game, right? So that's what I'm hoping to do with this series is actually just, what I was going to do is click on a few of these games so you can check out some of the quality, just the cover box art is, completely different. Like I said, the 4th edition rules, you can download those for free. So much better. I was hoping, here's a map preview. Here's a map preview. So this is Russia and around the time of Kursk. And that would have been, 42, 43 time frame, right? Now, just look at that map, right? And then look at my map. I mean, tell me, which would you rather play on? I mean, without a doubt, everyone's going to say these. They look so much freaking better, right? You're still getting the same price. I mean, they didn't up the price just because it costs them. They actually, I don't know if they hired a designer, a map designer, which is what they needed, like 10 years ago. But at least we have to give people credit when they're trying, right? Because when they are trying to make themselves better, you got to give them, or at least I try to give them the kudos. When somebody tries, even if you fail, at least you tried. And that's why, and I'm not going to get into it in this video, but I've got videos on my channel talking about other companies out there that refuse to put any effort into making themselves better. Did Avalanche Press need to make better maps? No. Did they need to clarify the rules? No. But they decided that they wanted to make their game better for their people. Make it so that people want to play their game. Make it so that the customers want to buy your game. There's a lot of companies out there that can learn from what Avalanche Press is doing. So much better. If you haven't got into Panzer Grenadier yet, if you're into tactical World War II systems, you always heard bad things about Avalanche Press, and there's been a lot of bad things. A lot of people hear bad things. It makes you go, well, I'm not going to get that system because, my buddy over there, John, he told me it was no good, and the maps are horrible, and the rules are terrible, and everything else. And so you don't try it, right? You don't invest in it. You don't look at the system because your friends or people had written them off and said, "Nah, you don't waste your money on that when you can go play something else." So I'm gonna try to denounce or talk about kind of debunk is, I guess, the best word I want to use. Debunk those old thoughts about Avalanche Press. As a side note, the Second World War at Sea is kind of going through its own renaissance. I don't know if Avalanche Press has new ownership, if they just, if they've got, companies are like people. They evolve, they grow, they expand, they learn from their mistakes, they learn from their past, things that, they're companies just like a person, right? So they're doing the same thing with the Second World War at Sea, editions. They're coming out with the second edition of rules there. They got a whole new series of games that are planned for the Second World War at Sea. Nothing wrong with the original games, but just not what I'm calling A plus quality with their rules, with their game design. Yeah, there are some good YouTube videos by the original Grognard on the Naval series. Yes, very well done. Big OG, big fan. I love him. He does a great job. I was actually, while I was cutting all of my little counters out, trimming off the edges, I was actually watching. It's funny that Jeremy would mention that. That I was trimming my counters and just watching that World War II, Second World War at Sea series that he did, because I had a lot of these games and I never played them. Again, same reason, couldn't find anybody to really want to sit down and play it with me. I tried playing it solo, but then you run into questions and problems and, etc., blah, blah, blah. But I see Avalanche Press, I see them moving in a very positive direction. I see the effort they're putting forth in their games, in their game designs, not just rehashing the same old same old thing. A good example of that, if we go to, let's go back, and we're going to go to France, Fall of France here. This is a real good example of this here. So you can see here, it comes with 50 scenarios, right? And you think, wow, 50 scenarios, that's a lot of scenarios. That's going to be a lot of gameplay, right? Well, one of the things that Avalanche Press was kind of, when we talk about the negatives, the negativity that was surrounded Avalanche Press through all their years of existence so far has been, well, they released these huge, massive rule books or scenario books with lots and lots of scenarios. The problem is the scenarios weren't, you get starting to play them and they weren't balanced well, they weren't explained very well. You can see here, this is, like I said, this is from Eastern Front, one of the original Panzer Grenadier Wave 1 games, and it came with 112 scenarios. 112 scenarios, which is, wow, 112, oh my god. Well, the problem is if half of these scenarios weren't researched well or play tested well or whatever, then you run into a problem that you spend all that time setting the game up and you're getting the counters out and doing everything, and then one guy is just murdering the other guy, and you're like, well, this is not very fun at all. And like, for example, and I'm going to give you this example because we're going to be playing this scenario one of these short times. That's why I actually have these counters out, because these are the Germans, and then here's the Russians over here. So we're going to be playing scenario 109 from Eastern Front. It's called Infantry Attacks, 14th September 1942. It's only a one. Oops, you guys can't see. It's only a one map scenario, so I can keep it on camera pretty easy. It's only 13 turns long. There's not a huge amount of counters, per side. There's not a lot of special rules. It's kind of pretty straightforward. Soviets win if they own all of the town hexes, or both of the German tanks have been eliminated. So if they get either one of those, the Russians win. So a pretty easy scenario. But if we look through this, elements of the 275th Rifle Division enter anywhere along the south edge, and it lists all of the actual items that come with this Soviets. And you notice there's 12 infantry there, and then right under that says 1 RCN. 1 RCN. I have literally gone through, as I was cutting all of my counters, as I was cutting all of the little edges on my counters, right? Look at what a great job I did, huh? What do you think of that? Look at that. You're not going to see any fraying or anything on my counter edges. Look at that. Isn't that great? But you can see on each of the counters it has, this is an HMG, or if we look at this unit here, this is a infantry. Once it focuses, there we go, infantry, right? There is no RNC unit anywhere to be had in this whole box. There is no RNC unit. So that's what I was talking about, the old ways of Avalanche Press, where you have these questions, you're trying to set up a scenario with your buddy, you spend all that time getting the units out, and then you come up with this question, well, what the hell is an RCN unit? Right? And we both look at each other like dumbfounded. What the hell is an RCN unit? I can't find an RCN unit anywhere in this game. So either I didn't get the right counter, or they mistyped the RCN and it's supposed to be something else. Who knows? There's no explanation. I've looked in the rule book. I even went on Google and typed in Avalanche Press RCN unit, Soviet RCN. I tried Googling this to try and find out what kind. Is it an infantry unit? Is it a tank unit? Is it an air unit? What is an RCN? And I can't find a Google search anywhere for this unit. So that's what I'm talking about. This is why people in the old days, when they talked about Panzer Grenadier, they would say, "Oh, geez, you go through all this time setting this unit up or this scenario up, get all the units out, and then we can't find an RCN, and we got to scrap that and start all over again." And all that's going to do is piss off your customers because they wasted an hour and a half trying to get all the units out, and then they can't play the scenario because they can't find one stupid counter that who knows if it's even in this game, or I don't know. But that's why in the old days Avalanche Press had issues. But like I said, they are certainly making great strides towards making things positive, right? You can see here this Panzer Grenadier 1940 Fall of France, right? 50 scenarios. This game is about as big as the game that the East Front game is in scope. It comes with, let's see here. Does it tell us how many maps it comes with? I don't know. Yeah, eight semi-rigid map boards, which is the same as East Front. So I mean, we're talking equal size, right? But now they only have 50 scenarios, right? And the reason there's only 50 now is because they spent more time saying, let's get rid of all this other bullshit scenarios. Let's stop making up scenarios in our head and actually create 50 good scenarios that people can use and not 120 that they can't use. So I definitely see a lot of positive things coming. Not only that, but you can see here. Here's scenario preview. Avalanche Press has always been really good about releasing articles and information about their different scenarios and this, that, and the other thing. Here's a scenario preview, right? So you can actually go and read through and say, oh, well, this one is from May 10th, 1940. It gives you some information about it. You can see the map you're going to be playing on. Look at the map. Oh, my God. I mean, which would you rather look at, right? I mean, it's obviously, I hate to keep saying the same thing, but when you look at the buildings here, these are town hexes just like this. These are town hexes. Which one looks more realistic and more fun to play on, right? I mean, obviously it's that one, but it gives you some information about the scenarios. Here's another one. It also gives you some information like commentary. This is a small scenario, just one board and a handful of units on each side. The Germans have sky-high morale, some artillery support, and a rather worthless tank platoon that might eventually show up. All the Germans are mounted on trucks, so they can get close to the objective pretty fast. Seizing the bridge hexes, getting over the major river and taking down hexes on the opposite bank. Try to stop them is a detachment of French motorized cavalry backed by 3 platoons in very good P-178 Panhard armored car. Indifference, French morale should make it tough, vulnerable. Indifference, French morale makes what should be tough defenses vulnerable. All right, so, and it goes through with each of the different things, blah, 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 talks about some of the units. Because who would have known what a P-178 was? Well, now we know what a P-178 is. And what was its, what did it do and how did it do it and all that. So, France's giant tank. Woo. So, information on this 2C tank. Here's pictures of it, and Avalanche Press has always done these really nice articles and talked about different units and different the different scenarios and stuff. It's one of their things that they'd always done really, really well. They've always done that really, really well. But now they're actually putting better product out there for their customers, better, um, better maps, better rules, better clarifications, all that, which is going to make things playing the game a lot easier, a lot better. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of let that go as our intro to Avalanche Press and Panzer Grenadier. And then next time we get together, which should be later tonight, once I get things organized, we're going to talk about the counters. We're going to look at the counters and talk about what they are, some game concepts. Here's an infantry unit for the German player. What do these numbers mean? What do they represent? It's an infantry unit. You can tell that because it says INF and it has a NATO symbol up in the top right-hand corner. Each one of these counters represents about 30 to 50 guys. It's a platoon level game. Vehicles are between, I think it's 3 to 7, depending on which nationality you're talking about. It's basically a platoon of tanks or vehicles. There you go. They have a lot more numbers on there we got to learn about. Nice silhouette of the German unit, what it looks like. The counters have always been really good. I always enjoyed their counters. I think they look really good. They have nice big fonts. They're not super crowded with too much information. And then, of course, we have our super cool leaders. There we go. There's a leader. Once we get them all focused in here. There's a lieutenant. And leaders are super important in this game. We'll talk about that when we go over the rules. But you will notice on the back side, it's a lieutenant. These counters actually represent two different people. Actually represent two different leaders. And we're going to talk about this in the rules. But basically, the scenario will give you the amount of leaders you get of different ranks. In this scenario, the Germans get 2 lieutenants. You draw those randomly, and then what you're going to do is you're going to flip this to one of the sides, and whichever side it lands on determines which leader you get. So you can see here on this counter, we have let's see what we have here. Yeah, I got to get it in my fingers so I can, there we go. So you got a 901. 9 is their morale. 1 is on the 0 on the left-hand side is their combat modifier, and on the 1 on the right-hand side is their morale modifier. The unit on the back side, this leader is dun, 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 once it focuses in on my fingers. Come on, dude. Come on, cameraman. Oh my gosh, come on. Maybe I gotta take it away and then bring it back. There we go. So the leader on the opposite side of this is a 9 morale, so both the lieutenants have the same morale. But this one's got a 1 in the combat box and a 0 in the morale box. So this lieutenant's actually better at leading combat, not as good at rallying his troops, while the guy on the backside is not as good at combat, but he's better at rallying his troops. We're going to find out, depending on how you flip them, which leader you're going to end up getting. So you can, the leaders you get are going to kind of determine what you can, how well your units are going to perform, either in combat or with rallying and staying in good quality. So we're going to look at the rules when we get together, probably later tonight once we get done with dinner here, and talk about the different units, how they operate, stacking, all the war gamey stuff. So hopefully you guys will be able to join me back then. And I do appreciate everyone's time today to look at Panzer Grenadier. Again, a very underrated system. A lot of negatives through the years, but I definitely see Avalanche Press moving in a great direction. Here's some 105 millimeter artillery, and it's got a huge firepower and a huge range. Look at that, 31. So nice, and some anti-tank capabilities as well. And on the back side of this is shows that it's limbered up. Oh yeah, that was another thing I was going to point out. So we talked about the quality that Avalanche Press used to do and stuff. So here we got two units. These are two Russian units. They're the exact same unit. Once we get it focused in, that would be super cool. There we go. So you can see they're both 82 millimeter mortars, right? And we're going to flip them over on the back side to see what they are. Well, on the oh, that's a bad example, isn't it? This is not the unit I needed. Is it this one? Let me see. And I dropped it on the ground. Sorry. Oh, yeah. Here. This is the example I wanted to show you. All right. So these are 120 millimeter mortars, right? Soviets again. The exact same counters, right? You flip them over, and holy shit, they're completely different. One unit shows that it's limbered. The other unit just shows that it's moving at a speed of 1. Why are these different on the back? So, I guess that what I was saying, earlier is people had issues with the Panzer Grenadier and Avalanche Press in particular in the way they were, the amount of scenarios that were balanced, the quality products for how much you're costing, the cheap, the rules that were clarified, the cheap play aids and stuff. And like I said, you're going to see a big difference. I've actually got two more Avalanche Press games coming in, and they're both the newer games. And the reason I ordered those is to show people the difference in the quality between what they used to produce and what they produce now. So we'll definitely look at that when those come in. The end of next week is when I'm supposed to start getting my stuff in. So hopefully we'll see that. Anyways, guys, I appreciate everyone stopping out today. We'll be back on later. We're going to talk rules. We're going to talk gameplay, mechanics. We're going to talk about, the numbers, what do they all represent, morale. We're going to talk about basic gameplay flow. Show some examples for you guys. And if you guys have any questions, be sure to stop back in later today. Don't forget, as Al Red Sox said, smack that like button. And Al would really appreciate it, and I would appreciate it as well. I also would appreciate it if you would all go check out Al Red Sox Fans, his channel, if you're not a subscriber already. He has a wonderful channel, great sports sim, very enthusiastic, and just love listening to him call a game. He does a great job. So definitely go check out Al Red Sox Fan. And thanks to Jeremy for coming out and everyone else. I will see you all later on for part 2. And Viper Dave. Oh, I almost forgot my good friend Viper Dave. Thanks you, Viper, for coming out. We'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching, guys.